Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about something that is common to many Indian subcontinent or even maybe Asian families. Sometimes even conservative cultures have this problem when arranged marriages happen. Sometimes it happens when love marriages are also present and people are living with their in-laws, and mostly this happens in Asian cultures and conservative cultures because they find family unity to be a important factor in family life, or simply because of convenience and financial reasons. Also, many people live with their parents after marriage in countries like India. Before marriage and after marriage, sons usually in India live with their parents, right? And it's the common thing I have seen growing up in my family, where all the sons have always lived with their parents. Very few work outside the family and live away from their parents. The ones who do live away from their parents are either living in a different state than where they were born, or they have moved out of India, and those are the only times when parents are less available or accessible in the child's life. So, when parents live with their children and the children get married, a common problem that every woman faces in their in law's place is that when they get sicker or injured, and if the wife was doing a lot of household chores by being the normal part of the family structure, and most times daughter-in-laws are expected to pick up the pace in their family life by taking over some of the chores that the mother-in-law would have been doing otherwise, or maybe other family members were also doing, but now because a new daughter-in-law has been added, she is doing normal family chores like taking care of cooking needs, or taking care of cleaning, laundry, picking up clothes from the balcony, folding clothes, cleaning up the house, tidying the rooms. These are very normal women chores that are expected of daughter-in-laws. So this video that I saw was a meme created by someone, but from the comments you can see many people are saying how they have experienced this two-faced mother-in-law experience, where in the video what they are showing is that the mother-in-law comes and helps the daughter-in-law who fell down and had a injury. Let's assume that she got either a back or a knee injury, and or maybe she got both, because it can happen. And when the daughter-in-law is resting, the mother-in-law comes and gives her the band-aid, whatever care she needs for physically alleviating the pain that she's experiencing. And she's also telling the daughter-in-law to rest, but on the other hand, she has also gone and complained to her son that the daughter-in-law is taking too much rest, and she doesn't have enough help, or whatever she has vented out to the son, which when it comes back to the daughter-in-law via the son, now what is happening is, because the mother-in-law didn't express her venting in the direct ways to the daughter-in-law is getting actually a second-hand knowledge from the perception of how her husband listened to his mother about the complaints the mother was doing. And most of us in life get stuck in this cycle of thinking our mother-in-laws are our enemies when we go through such experiences with our in-laws. And it is troublesome, because if your in-law is very nice to you in front of you and helpful to you, but behind your back venting out to your husband, you might feel it's a hypocrisy. But in this hypocrisy also is something that people don't realize is actually meant to shift the relationship. And this is actually not hypocrisy, because I have experienced hypocrisy from people, and I'll tell you this is not hypocrisy. This is simply a mother-in-law being a human. And why is she being a human? Imagine now, let's assume that this daughter-in-law has been married into this family for a period of couple of years after marriage, and in those 1-2 years, she being a new member has slowly picked up some household chores. And now initially, before the daughter-in-law came into the family, maybe the mother-in-law was doing all the cooking, cleaning, everything. I have been married briefly for a while and in a conservative Indian family, and I'll tell you, in my husband, and this happened in US, So in US, people don't have maids usually. So many household chores, very rarely do people hire someone to do their cleaning, maybe like once a month or once in 2-3 months to do some major cleaning of the house. Otherwise, the daily cleaning, like vacuuming of the rooms, and there because we have carpets, vacuuming is more common than doing the jhadu pocha that in India we do. So in US life, you don't have maids or you don't usually hire maids unless you're rich, and most average income people will do their own house cleaning. So in my in-laws place, before I entered that family, I realized that my mother-in-law and my husband were the ones who were doing majority of the cleaning chores in the house. And only later on, slowly I started doing it because I was living in a different state. It took me a while to pick up the pace of the family, and I was a little clueless and naive person as well. So it took me a while to pick up certain things as a daughter-in-law. I failed completely as a daughter-in-law in that family, and I'm glad I failed because there were other reasons, and I will talk about the abuse in my marriage also in the later part of this video. But because it was a family where the son and the mother were doing many of the household chores, like throwing out the garbage during the weekly garbage pickup, because there was a weekly garbage pickup schedule, so you have to put all the garbage out once a week. That part they would do share jointly. They would do the cleaning of the dishes jointly. They would do the cleaning of the tables jointly. They would also share chores about vacuuming, doing laundry, and things like that. And slowly I started doing the laundry, helping a little bit in the kitchen, but it took me a little time to get involved in those activities. And I wasn't doing the vacuuming because I would only visit them once in 2-3 months. So because I was visiting only once in 2-3 months, I didn't pick up the vacuuming part of the chore, which I think they were vacuuming possibly once every weekend or something. And they would also do once a weekend grocery shopping together. So this was the norm in that family. And this is kind of like the norm of US families, because in US you may not end up doing all cleaning activities daily. You will do the cleaning of the dishes possibly daily, but sometimes vacuuming of the rooms doesn't happen daily in certain homes. It really depends on how much particular people are about keeping their homes clean and tidy, and how tired they are from the other work they are doing outside their homes. Like when I used to live by myself, my vacuuming of my homes used to be even lesser than once a week, and I would hire people to do the vacuuming, but I was living by myself majority of my time in US life. So vacuuming was a chore that I put in the back burner because I didn't have that much of a messy house. I hardly lived in my own home and when I was living in my own home, I had only 2 comfort zones. So those 2 places used to be kept clean, but the rest of the home I would vacuum only occasionally. So that was my pattern because I lived kind of like a bachelor girl, and I was more like a man in my bachelorhood days than I was like a woman. And this also had some patterns from my childhood that led me to be like this, which I will talk about maybe in a different video. But this is the norm, that when you are living either by yourself or when you're living with in-laws, there are certain chores you have to do as normal part of living related to cooking and cleaning. So this mother-in-law, whatever their patterns were before the daughter-in-law entered the house, slowly that pattern shifted. Initially, maybe she had her son also doing some picking up of the clothes from the drying in the sun, and maybe the son would occasionally help out in the kitchen with the kitchen cleaning or grocery shopping. Some things the son and mother-in-law might have been doing on when the daughter-in-law was not there. But now that the daughter-in-law has come, what happens, which happened to my husband also, like one time they had Ganpati festival, and during Ganpati time when I was there with my in-laws, they had this tradition of cooking like 21 dishes for Ganpati on the day of Ganpati festival. Some of the dishes the family had started delegating to cook one day before, but say they cooked 3-4 sweet dishes a day before the Ganpati festival, but on the morning of the Ganpati festival for 4-5 hours they had a norm of cooking everything for Ganpati, then having a puja in the afternoon after all the 21 dishes had been prepared. Now this is what they told me is their norm. And when I wasn't there, and my mother-in-law was a great cook. My husband also was a great cook. So both of them used to do this cooking. When I came, what happened, because both of them used to do this cooking and the kitchen doesn't have enough space for three people to cook very comfortably. So only for part of the cooking in the Ganpati day, my husband helped us. After that, he went into his room and started chatting with his friends because he has now got me as his replacement. So earlier, when he and his mom used to do everything together, now seeing that I am helping his mom do the cooking, and they wanted me to transition into doing this kind of cooking from next year onwards. So they wanted to teach me all the dishes that they cook. So and I was happy to learn it. I hadn't done many of the dishes that they had prepared for the festival. So the dishes that I had done in the past, I did with them, and there were many dishes that I never had prepared in my life because I am not a great cook. So I am a very basic minimal cook who knows only very basic few dishes. And so learning new dishes and they were from a different culture than mine. So learning those dishes were great for me. And while I was learning, my husband escaped and went to his room and started chatting and gossiping with his friends. So this is how men are. When they were doing something that they used to help their mothers with previously, as soon as the daughter-in-law enters the picture, men stop doing those things, and now the daughter-in-law picks up the pace of those activities. This is how joint families usually work. And maybe, especially if it is a very ultra conservative family, many boys don't even do any household chores at all sometimes in their house, which I saw with two men I had dated before I had got married. And those two men, I had very briefly dated them. I never used to stay with them, but occasionally we would share spaces where I wasn't living together with them. I wasn't even sleeping with them, but I was testing them out as boyfriends. And they were also testing me out as a girlfriend. But when we were dating each other, we tried to be in each other's homes for a while. We would watch movies together, eat dinner together, go out occasionally with friends for some activities, and that's how we were testing each other. But we were also trying to merge lives with each other. And because I was living in US, I did have a little bit more freedom than I would have had if I lived in India to explore a life with someone else before marriage. And while exploring the life with these guys before marriage, I saw they were really bad at house caretaking needs. They didn't know how to maintain their bathrooms. Every time I would go and occasionally stay with them, I had to clean up their bathrooms. They would not clean up their kitchen sometimes. They would not clean up their fridges also sometimes. They didn't. Some of them were really messy. They have a hard time even picking up their own trash. They had such a hard time picking up their trash, and throwing, even once a week, throwing their trash was a problem to these men. So all of these eventually led me to not date them. Apart from these, there were other problems as well. But there are all these boys who have grown up in families where they have hardly or ever done any household activities. And in that scale, my husband was slightly better. He did get involved in household activities, but he had a reason too, because his father was very abusive and very less supportive in doing things at home. He had to pick up the pace of doing home activities that he wouldn't have otherwise done if he had simply been in a normal, safer Indian household. And which is what the problem is of most Indian men. If you have grown up in a normal household, most boy children do not pick up the pace of doing household activities, and they aren't even taught by their moms how to do the chores or help with the chores. Or if they do invariably end up helping in some chores, they do very minimal help, like maybe chopping up the vegetables occasionally or folding the clothes occasionally. Apart from these two chores, or setting up the table occasionally for their moms. These are the three minimal kind of chores I have mostly observed Indian boys help out with their home chores in their families. And it is true even of my brothers who are grown up in Indian families with me, they just don't know how to help out in the home life. And it's not something that I haven't tried teaching them. And my brother had an opportunity to do this himself, learn this himself, when my mother passed away when he was 18 and I was 20. But despite our mother passing away at such a early age, even my brother, who had the opportunity to pick up the pace of learning these chores, only picked up one thing which was attuned to his personality, which was that he knows how to cook certain things really well. He knows how to do some cooking related activities really well. But even though he knows these activities, again, despite him knowing cooking really well, having a knack and an internal skill where he could have become a great cook after my mom's death, he couldn't do it. And he had a couple of different reasons for that also, which again I'll talk in a different video. But this is what happens in Indian families. Men usually don't pick up the cues and clues to where they should pick up the pace when a family member dies, or when a family member is sick, or when a family member is injured. And which brings me back to this video where the mother-in-law is venting to her son about the daughter-in-law. Most daughter-in-laws will assume that this mother-in-law is being her enemy by doing this. But I want to change the narrative and ask women to start looking at this from a different lens, because at the higher purpose level, as well as at the real practical level also, the mother-in-law is technically on the same page as the daughter-in-law. Why? Because the son that the daughter-in-law has married, her husband, is partly her mother-in-law's son and partly her father-in-law's son. And assuming that there was a father-in-law also involved in this home, because in the video you see that the mother-in-law is wearing a red bindi, which is usually worn only when the mother-in-law is still married. So there is a father-in-law in this home, a father-in-law who is either nearing retirement or already in retirement possibly. Now, if the father-in-law is nearing retirement, he may have a lot of job responsibilities and he is hardly involved at the home front. But this is what the boy has also seen. He has seen his father never been engaged in the home life, which 90% of the Indians that I know I have grown up with those fathers who have never been involved in the home life. But the modern life demands that women have to start becoming involved in the home life, because women have started becoming more involved in outside home life. So unless this woman is a housewife, if she is a woman who is also working outside the home, it is mandatory that if both partners, husband and wife, are working outside the home, then home chores have to be divided and distributed eventually by the husband also, which many men don't learn, causing women to be overburdened and eventually start resenting the overburdening. And even if a man works outside the home and a woman is only a housewife completely, even then there are days a woman has to have rest, when she has periods, when she is injured, like when this daughter-in-law fell down. Even if you are a housewife, there are periods of time you need rest, because otherwise if you are a housewife, most housewives don't get a break, don't get to have a vacation time or time where they are resting, because of which it is necessary that men also, if say the man is going to a 9 to 5 job, after the 9 to 5 job, or even if in the modern world some people in India work 10 hours in a job, after working 10 hours 5-6 days a week, you still have a Sunday where you are not working, you're getting a break, you're doing things where you are not you are just relaxing, watching TV, playing video games. Or every day also after work, many men do this, they will sit and have this half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour time when they're watching TV, doing video games, whatever they want to do. So all men have trained themselves to do this, where they have this 1 hour, 2 hour entertainment time every day, and a few hours of just simply relaxing and chilling and doing nothing on Sundays. This is what the boys I have dated and the man I married did. They had their relaxing time. And do you think girls didn't have that? Of course, girls also had that. If we were brought up in an average middle class family, we were also relaxing 1-2 hours watching TV. We were also relaxing, if not 1-2 hours watching TV, reading a book for 1-2 hours, going and playing with our friends for 1 hour, going and seeing something on the weekends, going shopping on the weekend, something relaxing even girls do, right? But this narrative shifts after girls are married. They don't get that same breaks, that if a boy has 1 hour, 2 hour break after work, Girl doesn't get to have that break anymore after marriage. So, which is where the problem zone occurs, because if the girl is not getting a break that she was used to for 20-25 years of life, say a girl didn't get married until 25 years of age and she was working and everything until that age, now she never gets that break. So, will she be tired? Will she be injured? And imagine that a mother in law also did that in the past. She also, until 20 years of age, maybe the mother in law had a house life where she had rest, she had fun, everything. But after 20 to this 40-50 years of age, when she is a mother in law now, in her 40s or 50s, when she is the mother in law, that is the only time the mother in law is now getting a break after 20-30 years of continuously doing things. That's why she's a human. And her response when she's telling to her son that her daughter in law is now injured and not doing anything has a truth to it. Say, her daughter in law fell down and she never gets a break, and seeing that the mother in law is helping her and helping her relax, the daughter in law also, sometimes there are daughter in laws who will milk the mother in law. So, and women, I've posted another video, a link also along with this, which shows that women have intuitive awareness, that is good. Women have patterns of recognition, awareness about people's behavioral patterns, because of which the mother-in-law is doing this. What are the patterns she's recognizing? She is actually recognizing two people's patterns. Maybe the daughter-in-law's pattern of sometimes when she gets injured, she is milking the injury recovery time. Or if the daughter-in-law is not like that, say the daughter-in-law is seriously, severely distressed, then the mother-in-law is also recognizing that the daughter-in-law has some severe injury. Say you fell down and initially you thought it is maybe like just a sprain or a tendon rupture or very minor something that is just needing a ibuprofen or a little bit of pain balm and you'll be fine. But say, the daughter-in-law is really injured. They got a microfracture going on, or some tendon got broken, or something happened where she actually needs more than just the supportive care that the mother-in-law has given to the daughter-in-law, or the daughter-in-law has given to herself as well. So say after 3-4 days of injury she has not recovered, then the mother-in-law has also picked up the pattern that the daughter-in-law needs help. But what does the mother-in-law also know? She knows her son also. Her son, unless people complain to her son is the kind who doesn't get up and do things by himself. Her son is the kind who doesn't recognize when people are in pain. Her son is the kind who is too lazy to even observe his wife, and he's just watching TV all the time or playing video games and not helping out in the family. That's why she's venting to her son, because she knows if she does kit to her son, then her son will be instigated and stimulated to go and help. And if she does this kit and complains, the daughter-in-law is thinking that the mother-in-law is complaining about the daughter-in-law. But what if the mother-in-law was venting out and saying that go and take your wife to the doctor, or go and help me in the kitchen, like your wife is injured right now, I need help in the kitchen, come and help me in the kitchen. Maybe she said it this way, or maybe she said it in a indirect way, because if her son is a direct listening person, come and help me in the kitchen, she would have said that, come and help me in the kitchen, your wife is injured, you need to help me. And the son is complaining to the wife. Why? Because the son is a lazy person, and that's why he's complaining. He could be the manipulative one. So sometimes you need perspective in understanding the personality of the person you have married and the personality of the person from whom he has been birthed. If they are both manipulative, yes, I agree that the mother-in-law is playing a hypocrisy game and is being manipulative. If they are both direct, then they are not playing a hypocrisy game. They are just venting out authentically where their trouble zone is. And the daughter-in-law could be the one who is being manipulative and thinking that I can't even rest here, I can't even milk resting here. Like when the daughter-in-law could have been easily in her home life manipulated her mother by saying, Mom, I am injured, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. So it depends, in the same scenario playing out in every household, depending on the personality of the three individuals, 3, 4, 10, 12 different things could have been playing out at the same time with this same incidence. And that's why you can't generalize things. You have to use your experience to understand whose growth phase was coming up at this time. If it is a standard family life where the daughter-in-law is seriously, severely injured, the mother-in-law venting has a purpose. The purpose is the son should wake up, son should stop playing his video games, son should stop resting, realize that when his wife is injured, it's his time to come and help his wife. Go and take the wife to the doctor. Maybe the mother-in-law is also venting that your wife is injured, you need to take her to the doctor. Why aren't you taking her to the doctor? And he is going and telling his wife, my mom is complaining, because he wants his wife to tell that please, he wants his wife to indirectly tell him. Some people are very indirect people. And I do not like this indirect way of communication, but too much indirect communication goes on in Indian families where people don't know how to communicate well and openly with each other. So if he goes and asks his wife directly, hey, is your injury not really he needs to also be open in his heart chakra. He needs to be open in his heart chakra. He needs to be openly empathetic towards his wife. And he needs to stop being a lazy man and lazy boy, man, boy, child. Because many men, Indian men, are man, boy, childs even in their 30s, 20s, 40s, whatever age they got married. They are men, boy, childs. I have met 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old men, boy, childs even now in my life who have not picked up how to help a woman, who never learned from the distress of the women in their life on how to pick up and become mature, helping, supportive husbands, sons, and even future fathers. Because of which, a mother-in-law has to vent. If the mother-in-law doesn't vent, that son will never wake up. In fact, if she vents to her boy many times and he eventually ends up picking the hints of why his mom is venting, that he should really mature up and become a boy, from a boy to a responsible husband, it will benefit the daughter-in-law only in the future, or even in the day when the mother-in-law is venting. If the boy gets up, goes and helps his mother, goes and helps his wife. But if the boy doesn't wake up, what is going to happen? This mother-in-law after 10-20 years will die. And then the wife will be venting out the same way as the mother-in-law, because for 10 years, 20 years, because her daughter has been kept well in her parents' home, where for 20 years she had the rest that she had. For 20 years, maybe the marriage will be great. Or after 10 years, the marriage will break down if you are also working outside the home. But after that 10 year, 5 year, whatever resilience the woman had developed in her life based on the relaxing life she had got when she was unmarried, that relaxing related, whatever resilient energy she had in her body will help her continue in the marriage without complaining for that many years. But afterwards, after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, she will also be venting the same way like the mother-in-law. That's why it's a learning lesson for the woman who is thinking my mother-in-law is khit-khit karti rehti hai or my mother-in-law is a villain in my life, needs to wake up. That her mother-in-law's life will be her future life if her husband doesn't get up and help. And to make the husband get up and help, there is a nice sweet way to do it, and there is a harsh way by venting out to do it. And when does the venting out happen? A woman's venting out doesn't happen the first time she asks a boy or her son or her husband to do something. A woman's venting out happens after 10 times. If you have told a man, get up and help me, he is not helping, you have to shout and scream, because otherwise they are immobile, insensitive, unaware, unempathetic, unwilling, unconscious in understanding how much injured you are. And why are men this way? Men are this way, built this way, because their mothers have done this to them, their mothers, their fathers, their siblings, their whole society. When a man doesn't say anything also, if he was the one who was injured, imagine what the wife would have done or the mother would have done to help him with his injury. His wife would give him all supportive care. His wife would also be massaging the balm on him. His wife would be also wrapping up the band-aid on him. His wife would also, wife and mother, both of them would be giving him soup and nutritious food. All these caretaking immediately starts happening from the wife and mother. But all the home remedies they have learned, they will try. All the doctor remedies that they know needs to be tried, they will try. And only then, after trying everything, if the boy is unhealed, they will take him to the doctor after a week or 2-3 days of trying out all the remedies they know. They'll give and shower all this love on that boy. He be it, and I'm calling him a boy, he could be a 30-year-old man, 40-year-old man, 50-year-old man, 20-year-old man, doesn't matter. He could be in any age, but this is the kind of royal treatment a boy will get. And if his father is also very empathetic and helpful, his father will also join in into the caretaking. Like if he has a big office bag that he needs to take, or if he goes to the office driving his own car, but the parent is also retired and parent knows driving, maybe the parent will now drive the son to the office. He'll get all this royal treatment without him speaking up, I need help. That's why men are so insensitive and not ready to pick up the patterns when a woman needs help. But that pattern, the mother-in-law has picked up. The mother-in-law understands that the daughter-in-law needs help. Mother-in-law also understands her own patterns, that she's getting tired. Because she's not in her 20s, she's now in her 40s or 50s. And if for 2-3 years the daughter-in-law had done many things in the home life that the mother-in-law had stopped doing, and now that the daughter-in-law is injured, mother-in-law is picking up the pace. But it shouldn't be simply the mother-in-law picking up the pace. Actually, the husband also has to pick up the pace. The husband also has to do these same things that the husband gets automatically from his mother and wife. If when he is injured, he is getting all this supportive care, caretaking, everything to help him recover, same thing has to happen to the wife also. And the only way it can happen is when either the mother-in-law first will tell him dheere dheere, slowly, a few words. But if she knows her son that without shouting this son won't do anything, she will invariably shout and vent at him, right? So you need to understand the mother-in-law's perspective. And now coming back to the son. This is the mother-in-law's perspective. Why the universe is making her say these things, or why she is telling these consciously to her son, is so that she can engage her son in helping her out and helping the daughter-in-law out. That is why a mother-in-law will be venting like this. And it's not a wrong negativity, even though it adds to negativity in the home space. Sometimes certain negativities are meant to have a future positive benefit as a result of that negativity manifesting in someone's life. When someone challenges you to be different than what is the norm, where normally if no one is injured, the boy will have no problem, the mother will have no problem, the wife will have no problem. If the husband sits and watches a TV game or a TV game show or a match or goes out with his friends, nothing. No one will stop him from his normal life continuing. But when someone is injured, you have to pick up the pace. You are a man, you're not a 20-year-old teen or a boy with no responsibilities. You have to pick up the pace in the life when a wife is injured, or wife needs supportive care, or wife needs to be taken to the doctor, but she's in too much pain to even express that she needs to be taken to the doctor. Or a wife needs a massage from the husband. Whatever she needs, a husband, if he doesn't pick up that, mother-in-law has to invariably say something. Okay, so that's the mother-in-law's job of this negativity. Now let's examine it from the boy's perspective. The boy, if he is a very lazy boy, if people shouting at him doesn't get him to do these things, he will continue being this boy even when he becomes a father in the future. So this is a testing time for the boy also, which most men fail to recognize, that when their mother is venting, when their wife is venting, when they have pushed their mother and wife to the level where they have to get something out of the boy only when they vent at him or shout at him, imagine what level incompetent boy that person is. Will that person be a good dad at all? So if you have married into a family, you are a newly wedded wife, for 2-3 years you've been married, everyone wishes new couples in India after 2-3 years of marriage that they should have a new child in their life. But can a new child enter this life where the man is still a boy, where he is not grown up from his childhood days of watching TV or doing entertainment by himself, going out and hanging out with his friends, socializing with his friends, not picking up the pace at a home life when mother or wife is injured and tired, not realizing that his mom is not the same mom when she was a 20-year-old mom. That same mom is not that same physical level, fitness level of a 20-year-old mom anymore. She's now a 40-50-year-old mom. Her physical fitness level is declining. That's why the mother is also venting out. He needs to realize and pick up and become a man, not simply for his wife, but he has to become a man for his future child. He has to become a man for his aging parents, because this level of aging that starts in middle age when a new wife has been introduced in the family, and that's why a wife has been introduced in the family, that slowly the mother and father will be aging. And because the mother and father will be aging, the role of the wife eventually will be not at that age. Sometimes it will be even as soon as you get married, within 3-4 years of marriage, your parents could get injured. The parent also could get some kind of injury, or the same situation could have flipped. The mother-in-law could have got injured. At that time, if your mother-in-law is injured and she is bedridden, wouldn't you want your husband to go and help out with your mother-in-law's injury? You would also be venting out to your husband. See, if the roles were flipped, you will also be venting out to your husband. If your husband mother-in-law is injured, she needs supportive care, and your husband is sitting and either talking with his friends or going out on the weekends with his friends on a weekend tour, or only busy working, being a workaholic, or sitting and playing games, because these are all the personality types of men who do not pay attention at all to their home life, or very bare minimum level do something in their home life when they are on their break from work. After work they stop working, and these are all of us have been trained in our schools to do this. We go to school, we come back home, and after we come back at home, we either do some school related studying, or rest of the time we were having entertainment in our homes. This is how most children of my generation have grown up. So we had either 6 to 8 hours of school plus traveling in bus life after, or going to tuition and all that. So 6 to 8 hours you were outside the home. And after tuition and everything, when you came back home, you relaxed at home, watched TV, read a book, played with friends. These are all for the next 4-5 hours, and studied for the couple of hours. That's it. Right? So majority of life people have led their life doing this, but while women stop leading this life, and after they become daughter-in-laws, they start taking care of the mother-in-law, father. If they are good conscious women, they will be doing this. They will be taking care of the mother-in-law, father-in-law, husband's other siblings. If they are also living in the family, they will also be taking care of themselves, but no one takes care of the woman. And that's why if the roles are flipped, there are many daughter-in-laws who will not even help their mother-in-laws. That also happens. But if both the woman and the man have to grow up from the marriage, the reason why you're getting married in your 20s when your parents are in their 40s and 50s is so that you wake up to the fact that your parents are now slowly going to get injured in life, weak in life, sick in life, and more family members are added, so that you can jointly help each other. And it's not that the daughter-in-law is only supposed to help with her mother-in-law, father-in-law's health issues. The son-in-law is also supposed to wake up to help with the father-in-law, mother-in-law of his, like the parents of his wife. If they have issues, he's supposed to wake up to that as well, right? So all these challenges, when you get injured, when you're fallen sick, are the times where men and women both are supposed to show their mettle on what they are as a person. And depending on that only, this is the testing time for the boy also to mature up. It is a testing time for the girl also to mature up, to see the humanity of the mother-in-law. And if they both are really mature enough to understand the humanity of what is going on here, and understand the family dynamics a little bit better, what happens is they are becoming better equipped to be future parents. Now, because all of us pray to have children in a particular time in our life, most of us, if we didn't have some karma that we wanted to clear before becoming parents, we will invariably become parents even if we haven't matured up. Then you have to be parents on the job. But every time there is an injury, every time there is a small conflict happening with mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, every time there is a place where mother-in-law and daughter-in-law both are asking for the son's attention, that time it is the time for the son to pick up the pace for both of them. If he listens to his mother's venting and understands truly and matures up truly and becomes conscious as to why this venting is happening, he will himself automatically, if he wisens up and matures up, or uses these 2-3 times of such similar conflicts happening, if he wakes up to why these conflicts are happening, he will realize that his mother also needs help because she's aging and in her 50s or whatever age she is. He will also realize that his wife also needs help and he needs to mature up, man up, stop playing games, start taking care of family needs, because as a man, his job is not simply to go to a job and give some money to his wife and mother. And there are many also boys I know in their 50s, when their parents are working and when they live with their parents, many boys, even in their 40s, 30s, do not pick up the financial things also of their parents' life. They simply don't know how to pick up the financial things. Even if they know it, they just don't do it, thinking their parents will continue doing it for years and years, which is unfair to the parents. Because if you have started earning, especially if you have started earning for at least 5 to 10 years, you need to pick up. Initial 4-5 years, no parent will expect, no universe expects you to do it. That's fine. You can spend it on yourself, spend it on your wife if you're dating your wife before marriage, or spending on a new married life and chill out with your wife. That is fine. But after the first few years of marriage, first few years of you earning some good amount of money, and if after even 10 years of earning good money, you're not chipping in into your family's expenses also, then what level have you matured? You're still the kid. You've not done anything related to adulting. If you haven't contributed in any way to helping your mother emotionally, helping your wife emotionally, helping physically with household things, helping physically take up your father's financial responsibilities as well, right? Which is why many Indian marriages are failing right now. And if you don't pick these up, your own children, if you get a child now after 10 years of having been an adult, say you are in your 30s, you got married in your 20s, and in your early 30s you became a father, say by the mid 30s or late 30s you are a father of a 10-year-old kid, what are you showing a 10-year-old kid? Father doesn't do anything. It is okay to just watch movies and relax in the weekends all the time. Let the mother and the dadi do all the housework, everything only women have to do. This is what you're teaching your son. And then after that son grows up, you are aged. If you never helped your mother and father and wife, your son is also not going to help you when you have aged. Very few sons will be helping you. Most of the sons will go out of the country, never come back, never do anything to help you, never realize what needs to be done to help you when you are aging. And now that you never paid anything for your parents' expenses, no one else will be there to pay for your expenses then. Right? Very rarely, if God is merciful, they will give you a merciful life at the end of your life. But if you didn't do many good things in your life, you were constantly lazy, consistently not helping anyone, by your 40s, 50s, maybe your wife will also divorce and go away, because if she's a working woman, she will see that I'm not getting help anywhere. If I am injured, I don't get help. If I am dying, I don't get help. If I am to be hospitalized, I don't have anyone to take me to the hospital. So that's why also many women after in their 30s, 40s and 10 years of seeing a husband, whether he's helping out, whether he is really a caring husband, whether he loves her, if she's not getting that, and if she has enough self-respect and self-care, she will leave such a marriage. Who wants to be a maid to someone when that person has never been a servant to them? Because there's nothing wrong in wife being a maid to a husband. Meaning, there's nothing wrong in you being servile to your spouse, helping out your spouse in whatever way the spouse needs help, even if it means doing free home caretaking as a maid. There's nothing wrong doing that. But what is wrong is if it is imbalanced. If only you are the one doing all the caretaking like a maid, doing all the household cleaning, doing all the healthcare caretaking, doing all the financial caretaking too, when you are a financially savvy woman, and you have done all these things for some other person and their family, but none of them do it equitably for you when you are injured and when you are in distress, why would you want to stay in such a marriage, right? Which is what happened to me. Like when my mother-in-law was sick, I went to caretaker. But when I am sick or when I am telling that I need my husband to be with me, I was living in a different state, my husband was living in a different state, and I assumed that since we are living in a different state, I wasn't even expecting him come and visit me once a week or once a month or something. But I assume that in US you have these 5-6 holidays, right? Like 4th of July and Labor Day and Thanksgiving and all that. So when I went to 4th of July and Labor Day and went and spent my time with my mother-in-law, or even before 4th of July, because I had a little bit more flexible schedule, I was doing most of the visiting. Wouldn't I expect normally, for equitability's sake, that if it is Christmas time or if it is Thanksgiving time, that my spouse should come and visit me? But he was not ready to do that. Instead, he decided there's some family wedding happening in India. He's going to go during Thanksgiving to the family wedding. I got so pissed off. But I also didn't realize there was something even more insidious going on in this family. Things which started happening to me, and because I was naive, I didn't realize these stupid things were happening, related to covert abuse. And I will now talk about really toxic family dynamics, because what happened in this first video about which I was talking about, where mother-in-law, father-in-law, daughter-in-law all have to wake up to their roles. Daughter-in-law also has to realize that I can't milk my mother-in-law if I am not that injured. Or daughter-in-law also has to realize, if she is really injured, that she needs to start speaking up more about her pain. She can't just keep it not vented. So if when mother-in-law is allowing the venting space to happen in the home, she also has to vent out. If she is injured and really needs help, she needs to talk to her husband, not about the mother-in-law, but about her own injury. That I'm really sick, I really need help, can you help me? That is what this negative experiences opportunity is. The opportunity is for the daughter-in-law also to speak up to the husband that I need help, and your mother is right, because here they need to be a team, not the son needs to be a team with his mother. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law have to be a team to wake up the son about becoming more responsible as a husband as well as a son, because he also needs to pick up the pace. If he has a free job where after 8 hours, 4-5 hours in the day he can relax at home, in those 4-5 hours, can't he invest this 10 minutes to go and fold the clothes for his wife? Can't he invest another 10 minutes to help apply some balm on his wife or apply the crepe bandage? Can't he invest 10 minutes to help his wife go to the bathroom if she's really injured? Can't he, like that, 10 minutes of the 4 hours that he has free time where he can watch TV, video games, whatever, in those 4 hours, if he even invests half an hour time in helping his wife, half an hour time in helping his mom in the kitchen, he still has 3 hours to still enjoy and relax. All he has done is he's allowed the space of 1 hour, half an hour time to mature up as a man and become slightly bit better evolved as a man than he was 10 years before, 5 years before, 2 years before his marriage. Because he can't expect to be that same boy of 10 years, 5 years, 2 years before his marriage. He got the marriage not because he can get free sex and free love and free care from a wife, but because he also has to give something after he's getting all this from a wife. The good energy of man feels when he has good sex with his wife, that energy doesn't need to just simply get wasted on a addiction of watching a TV show or movie or going out and having fun and drinking binge with friends. That good energy he got from his wife after having sex and being balanced by a feminine energy means he has to pick up the pace of that feminine caretaking energy from his wife, and then use that feminine energy to do the caretaking of the home that he needs to do as a son and a husband. And then because the universe is also preparing him to become a father in the future, he also, if he starts doing these activities now and picking up that half an hour 1 hour extra space he gives to his wife and his mother and his home life, that same 1 hour, when they are not injured, wife and mother are doing everything at home, right? They are not expecting this every day. They're only expecting him to do this maybe once a month, like when she has periods, like when she is really sick, once a month or twice a month you have to do this. It's not a big deal. You can give in workplaces, when a husband, that same boy at work is given some extra work role, he knows how to delegate his time, he knows how to use that time extra thing that he has to do at work. Likewise, he has to grow up at home life also. You're not just simply supposed to grow up in work life, you're supposed to simultaneously grow up in your family life as well, which many men do not realize, and that's why they have crappy marriages. And immediately if the wife and mother complain to him after 10-20 years, he will also be sitting and venting with his friends. But venting has its rightful place and venting has its wrongful place. And the wrongful place is when after venting you never realized what was the purpose of the venting. What is stressing you out? The thing that is stressing you out is additional responsibilities in home life. But that same additional responsibilities your wife and mother has been doing gracefully for 10-20 years. So when will you pick up the pace? Right? If you don't pick up the pace when they are injured, if you don't pick up the pace when they are crying, if you don't pick up the pace when they are broken, if you don't pick up the pace when they are shouting at you, are you even a human, or are you a robot just doing whatever you were programmed to do at 20 years, for until 20 years of age, whatever you were programmed to do, you are continuing to do that and nothing else. And now coming to my juicy story, because I'll give you 5-minute glimpse of what is really toxic mother-in-law and father-in-laws, is that in my marriage, it was so weird, so weird. They had a home where they had a garden in the backyard where they grew rose trees, they had some fruit trees, and my father-in-law used to do gardening. Now, he is such an abuser. If he gets, there is a lot of things I want to tell about their marriage, but there's only one thing I will tell here, which I didn't realize and pick up only after I went away from the marriage. Now, after almost 8 years, I'm picking up that this was some kind of serious, weird abuse would have happened to me if I had lived with that family. And what was it? This father-in-law, my husband used to work from home. So every time my husband is doing something in his workplace and has some work related things going on, father-in-law will create some trouble that he needs in the garden, help from his son, so that the son has to go and help him while he is doing work from home. So he is always manipulated by his parents to keep helping them in something or the other artificially. Now this thing I picked up intuitively, and I didn't say anything also about this. But the father-in-law also being intuitive, likely picked it up, and I don't know what is really mentally wrong with these people, but there's something really mentally wrong with them. Their garden patio area, where before marriage me and my cousin had gone and visited them in that patio area, visited them a couple of times in their home, and despite visiting them in their home, in their patio area was very neat and tidy. There was a jhula like thing in the patio. There was this wooden area under shady area where you can sit and observe the trees and birds in their garden. So in that sitting area, which had a French window leading from the drawing room into the patio, in that place, suddenly where the wooden shade is there, they were dangling a sharp saw. And I was like, why is this saw here? And they are like, no, we had some gardening activities to do, so this is the normal place we keep the saw. And it was not normal. It was kept in such a way that if someone would directly walk from the drawing room into the patio and they are not paying attention, that saw can anytime fall on them and injure their eye, injure their hands, anything. And they did that deliberately. Not just that day I just picked it up and I was like, why did they do this? I don't understand. They are normalizing it, but I could tell intuitively, I recognize the pattern that this is an abnormal behavior. Then the next time one day in the sitting room only, we used to occasionally on a weekend watch a movie together. They were South Indian, so we would sit and watch a South Indian movie. Sometimes one was South Indian, one was North Indian. So sometimes you'd watch a South Indian movie, sometimes you'd watch a Hindi movie on Netflix. So after watching the movie, or in the weekend time when we are sitting in the sofa and doing something, and I was studying also at that time, so sometimes in the drawing room I would bring my laptop, and while watching the movie or after the movie has been watched, I would sit and do something on my laptop related to my studies and assignments. So in one of those days, while I'm sitting on the laptop and doing something, my husband is like, "Can you come to the kitchen? I need some help." And the kitchen was directly again in a direct pathway from the sofa to the kitchen is a straight line. So I started immediately walking in that straight line, not realizing something was there on the floor. And as soon as I started, I got up, and like how when you are in a new marriage, you will be very enthusiastic when your husband is calling you, right? You're not going to be like slow paced and I'm coming. You're in a new marriage, so you would be very quick and jumpy. So I was quick and jumpy, and I started walking like immediately to the kitchen. And because I'm that kind of a person who immediately, if someone asks me do this for me, I will do it if I'm not that busy. So as soon as I got up and started walking towards the kitchen, my feet went dham on something as I was stepping on the kitchen, and I got a severe 1 inch of bleeding injury on my foot. Why? Because my husband or his father or his family had placed something sharp on the path to the kitchen. It was a surge protector like thing, but I didn't realize that there was any surge protector there. Even though I had my computer there, I never charged my computer before that day. I was new to that family home. This was like my second or third visit to their family after marriage, where I had hardly lived in that home, but my semester had started, so I had started doing my semester work. So they didn't want me to do my semester work. They are also an abusive family, and they are also preparing some weird thing they were preparing about the abuse. So they were also like, studying me, like how to injure this woman or something. I don't know. It was very weird. But I realized that day, I didn't realize it that day. I was like, oh, it's my mistake. I'm so stupid. I didn't observe where I was walking. I should have thought there should be a surge protector near the sofa, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, it is not all surge protectors will actually injure and cause a sharp injury on your feet. And feet has a strong bone. Our feet is used to injury. So that sharp bleeding that I could have only got if along with the surge protector, they had put something deliberately sharp on the surge protector. Like they could have sharpened the switches of the surge protector or kept something sharp on the surge protector. And when I'm injured, am I going to go and check the surge protector? No, I was injured, I was bleeding, I was hurting. So what was I doing? I was like, I'm so stupid, please help me, or whatever, something like that I must have said. I thought that I have been stupid. So they went and gave me band-aid or something. But in the meantime, if they had deliberately put a sharp object on the surge protector, they just moved away that sharp object. And later when I'm looking back at it, because I didn't even realize how I got myself injured. When you're injured, where will your attention go first? You will go first to the injury. So I went to the injury and I was looking at removing the blood from my feet and all that. So the 15-20 minutes while I'm taking care of myself, and by then they had also shown me where the band-aid is or something. And because before this also they did something else where my hand had got injured in their home. So now these small things that they were doing, they were all building up to serious injury for me. And I didn't realize that at that time though, that they were slowly building up to severe injury for me. And while the 15-20 minutes I took to, because I was severely bleeding, so for the 15-20 minutes I took to help with my bleeding and everything, in the meantime, in the background, if something sharp had been placed there, it was removed. And when I went there, I saw only a surge protector now and nothing else, a normal surge protector. And I just thought, okay, it was just me being very enthusiastically walking to the kitchen that led to the injury, but it wasn't. And before that, what they had done was, one day they had these table mats that they would place while eating. They made it seem as if table mats are a normal thing that they eat at every day. Now you won't know if every family, in most Indian families, we don't put placemats on our tables unless we are inviting guests, right? Most of the time we don't have table mats on the table. Maximum you will have is a mat for the hot plates, right? For your hot dal and hot sabzi ka vessel, you will have some table mats. Otherwise, for your plates, we usually don't have table mats. Most families don't, most average Indian families don't eat like that. We eat only like that when we have guests. So they had invited me one time before marriage as a guest to their house for breakfast one day, and at that time they had the table mat, breakfast brunch kind of a thing. So that time they had table mats, but every day after marriage I started seeing they had the same table mats. Now these table mats were wooden mats, and one day they told me, why don't you clean up the table? So while I was cleaning up the table, when you're mopping the table and you're not used to some place or some table or some home, you are doing whatever they are instructing you to do, but sometimes you can be unmindful, and my hands that day got pricked by a wooden piece from the table mat. It was a wooden table mat thing, and that table mat thing that was made of small tiny wooden stick, matchstick like thin sticks, it, some small splinter of wood got into my palm, and I got so injured, and I was feeling so injured because of which. And I was like, usually though, if you have got a splinter on your hand, if your mother-in-law or husband has seen that you have a splinter, what they will do, they will come and help you, right? They'll come and see, like, okay, you have a splinter, let me help you. Even my dad, who is a very unhelpful person, when in childhood I had a splinter on my hands, my dad helped remove the splinter. But this guy was sitting and just enjoying my pain. He was smirking at me for being frazzled with a splinter, and then I didn't know what I should do with the splinter because my husband is not helping me. Because usually when you have a splinter in your hand, I don't know where the tweezers are. It's a new home. I don't know where the tweezers are. I have just come occasionally for a visit, so I have not brought all these things with me. I don't know where the needle is, because these are the things you will use to take out a splinter. You will either take a tweezer. If it is a large splinter, you will take a tweezer to take it out. Or if you don't have a tweezer, what you will do, you will which I had done in childhood days when I had a splinter like this. My dad had done this. He had taken a needle, heated it in a burner, and then used the sterilized needle to pick up the skin and help in taking out the splinter. My husband was doing none of these things. He was simply enjoying my misery. Then after 5-10 minutes of me being in pain and asking him, can you give me a needle or something to help this? So he was testing me to see how much pain I can withstand, what pain level I can withstand, and how do I behave when I have pain. This is the level of psycho this family is. They're sitting and analyzing a person, like minor pain, how much minor pain I could take, and then the next day or few months later they had this dangling dagger and saw in front of me, and then a few weeks later I had this foot injury. All these things they did. And there's this fourth thing they had done. When he was visiting my house, I had bought at that time, a few months before my marriage, I bought a very sharp mixie, which was very stupid. After I bought the mixie, I realized that mixie was very sharp, and whenever I was washing that mixie, my hands used to get injured. So I would very rarely use that mixie. I was not using it at all after I saw that it is too sharp for me to clean up. So I wouldn't use that mixie. But when my husband came to visit me, because he's involved in kitchen activities also, and at that time I was working, so when I had gone to work that day, he used the mixie for preparing some dish for himself. And after preparing the dishes, now usually because that mixie is very sharp, its blades are very sharp, and it had 5-6 different sharp blades in it. When I washed that mixer grinder, I would tilt the mixer grinder and keep it on a flat surface, so that the inside sharp thing in it won't fall away or fall out of it or injure me while I'm picking that thing up. But my husband put it in such a precarious way that as soon as someone would touch that mixer grinder, the inside thing will roll out of it and injure someone. And I got so pissed off when he put it in this precarious way. I'm like, why are you putting it in this precarious way? This is not the right thing to do. We can get injured. This, and at a time, because I was in a student housing and it was under my name, I said, in my house you have to follow my rules like how I follow in your house your rules. Immediately he got upset, and not only did he get upset, he wanted to walk out that day. He not only wanted to walk out, he wanted an apology for me, and until I apologized, he started packing his things like, I don't want this marriage to continue. And this was like within 3 months of our marriage. But this was also a psychological game they were playing with me. And I realized this later on, not that day. That day I just thought I was having a simple man-woman fight with a spouse, and I asked for his forgiveness, and after asking for his forgiveness, he finally, and he got injured. Why? Because I said, this is my house. He's like, how can you say this is your house, blah blah blah. He didn't say that, but that is what his intention was, that you said this is your house, I'm leaving there. And saying that he was going to pack up, create all this drama and leave. And I had no choice. If you're in a new marriage, what will you think? You will want to save your marriage, you will want to apologize for things that you may not have, shouldn't have said, or something like that, which is true. Maybe I shouldn't have said this is my house. But the point was, I was only comparing. I was only saying, in this house, you have to follow my rule. In your house, I'm following your rules. This is what I was saying. It was not about your place, my place, you own that place, I own. It was nothing to do with finances, nothing to do with ego. It was simply a contrasting thing I was talking about. But it wasn't the contrast that was causing him to leave like this. And this is what I realized later on, because then his plan, he also likely put something in my food. I don't know what he put in my food, but I'm intuitively telling you he put something in my food. He sprayed something in my home, because I got severely injured after that day when he left. For 2 months I was very, very sick also physically. I was having nearly heart attack like symptoms at that time, heart failure like symptoms. I had to go to the doctor to get myself checked. We didn't detect the heart function related problems, but we detected lung function related problems. And all these things slowly added up. Later on I realized that the reason why he came in to visit me in October, and in November during Thanksgiving he didn't want to visit me, and in December during until October he had this fight. Then after this fight, after he left me, for 2 months he didn't speak to me. So he was doing this subtle manipulation, where if you were really a newly married, deeply involved in love kind of a woman, which I was initially, when I said yes to him in marriage, I was love bombed into thinking that he gave very subtle, not really love bombing like hints, but he analyzed me to see whether I love him. And I was attracted to him, so I felt, okay, this must be love. I was also very lonely at that time, so I said yes regarding the marriage, that's why. But after the marriage happened, because I had dated 2 other people in the past, I understood what is love, what is not love, even from their experiences. So because I had known what is not love, I could see none of their experiences with me was about love. It was constantly about manipulation. So when they wanted to not talk to me for 2 months, I also was okay with it when they are not talking. Not that I was not hurt and injured. For 2 months, if your husband is not talking, you are in a newly married stage, you will feel injured, you will feel offended, you will feel also really emotionally troubled. On my birthday, which was in December, I was crying throughout the day, because I didn't know why, what is going on in my marriage. Should I stay in this marriage? Should I not stay in this marriage? All these questions were going on for 2 months in my mind, ever since they played this game of deliberately causing injury. And at that time, all these things that I'm narrating to you in this video, of these 4 or 5 instances where deliberate injury setup was being done by them, I didn't realize this deliberate injury setup was being done by them. Not that year. That year I took it as a normal fight between spouses and a normal thing. But now when I'm reanalyzing these things, I can understand, I can see where they were planning something really nefarious with me. And they also had a joint account with me. Afterwards they thought they will manipulate me into coming back into the marriage by, first of all, they had definitely done some thing to injure me and harm me, which I didn't realize. And that's why he was not coming during November time. he gave that 2 months time for whatever food related adulteration he had done in my food to work on me. But because I was so depressed emotionally, and I also, because I'm not a great cook, so if my husband was not there, I wouldn't be cooking also as normally. And I was also student, so at the time I would only eat outside when I would go to my student cafeteria. From there I was eating food. So because of those things, I didn't eat normally at home, I didn't cook normally at home. So whatever food related adulterations they had done didn't have an impact on me, but they had chemically adulterated my home, because I had some sprays in my home that I had put for insect control, and those same sprays, I think he sprayed a little bit more into my walls. I just didn't know he had done all that, because he had access to my home when I was working. So the 2-3 days that he stayed with me, twice he came and stayed with me, I think, and both the times, the 2-3 days of access he had to my home. One time I was working, one time I was not working, but both the times he had access to things that he did something to me, which I now realize were all slowly building up to abuse, and then possibly even my eventual murder. Luckily I didn't die, because luckily I was, because of my past bad relationships, I immediately picked up at least the bad relationship aspects in this, and I also started praying to God. I didn't know whether I should continue with this marriage, and then certain things happened which led to the family only filing for divorce. And I was okay with it, because they thought new marriage, so within 6 months, if they are filing for divorce, 6-7 months they file for divorce, and within that few months when they're filing for divorce, what they thought is I would be ashamed of divorce. I also, at that time, they had filed for my green card, so they thought that because of green card I will stay with them. I didn't care about the green card. I was like, okay, my career is going to get short, but I don't care about it. I don't care. My physical and mental life had to be more important to me than a green card. So I didn't care if they cancel the green card. I mean, didn't care meaning, yes, it added further injury to my career prospects, and I had to question now, should I stay in US, should I leave US. I had an option to again study in US, but by then I had already done 3 masters in US, and I was like, that's it, I am done with studying for now. Right now I can't study anymore. So even though I had another student option to again study and enroll somewhere else, I just couldn't take it. I was too stressed out, and it's a good thing I did that. Why? Because I am guaranteed telling you right now, my intuition is telling me 10 years later, after this incident has happened, that in these 10 years I didn't realize they had poisoned my food, but I can guarantee tell you they had poisoned my food. And because of which I whatever was going on behind the scenes, I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, what they were planning, but all these pointed to what they were planning, how they were slowly assessing my pain threshold, assessing how fragile I am or how strong I am, also assessing how they can psychologically, if I had been psychologically manipulatable by them, normal women would have done what? It's so 6-7 months marriage. I would have again asked him for forgiveness and gone back to the marriage. As soon as they filed dissolution papers. So as soon as I got the dissolution papers, I would have said, please don't dissolve the marriage, let's work on it. But I didn't do that, because I was a very confident 13 years. I had lived by myself in US, independently doing things for myself, very independently. My own family was also a little bit narcissistic family, so they never cared how I lived my life in US. My mother had already died, the one who might have cared, but all the people who could have cared for me weren't there for me for 13 years. So for 13 years I had lived life for myself. So I knew how to live life for myself, live life without a man's support. So that's why, and my boyfriends were also very incompetent boyfriends. So they never supported me financially, emotionally, or in any other way. So because I had all these experiences where no man was supporting me, I didn't think that a man who has given me a legal paperwork was necessary for me. So I walked out. And it is a good thing I walked out, because if I hadn't walked out, these same small injuries that had happened already in those 5-6 months would have become major injuries in the future. And there are many other things I would like to talk about this marriage, but what I'm saying is, this is what real toxic people are. There's another woman in that comment section who had mentioned that her mother-in-law is not whatever that woman mentioned about her mother-in-law. Now I'm blanking out on that mother-in-law's behavior, but there are really truly manipulative mother-in-laws who will show you a good face, but who are always, really doing hypocritical things. This mother-in-law is doing a normal thing. She's not a very bad mother-in-law. And in fact, whatever this mother-in-law is doing, it can help all three involved in that relationship if all three come from a good open heart space and understand each other's humanity, forgive each other's humanity, and work towards understanding they're meant to be a jointly functioning family by understanding each other during these troublesome times. Whereas the things my husband and in-laws were doing, they are like really toxic in-laws who add to your injury deliberately to you, because they are playing manipulation games and they enjoy, seeing the daughter-in-law suffer. They enjoy torturing another human being. They get pleasure out of pain of other human beings. These are called antisocial personalities and they have serious mental health issues. So learn to distinguish between a mother-in-law who is just normal human versus a mother-in-law or father-in-law. Because for me, my father-in-law and husband were more toxic than my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law had some good qualities too, and she was also getting abused by them. So what I'm saying is, sometimes the enemy is not what you think it is. And there are really some cruel people in the world, so be careful. Do not while away a good marriage and a good in-law relationship by thinking they are your enemy when they are not, when in reality there are many women like me who have been in marriages where husbands and in-laws were really, really bad, who were almost ready to even kill and injure a daughter-in-law without any remorse. So please learn to distinguish between these two types of in-laws, and do not categorize yourself as an abused wife simply because your mother-in-law occasionally shouts and vents out. They are just normal humans, and you will also become like them eventually in the future if, when the mother-in-law is venting, you don't realize the real repercussions and reasons for why the mother-in-law was venting, and don't realize that why your husband needs to mature up. Well, when the husband doesn't realize it, wife doesn't realize it, you can't mature enough to become good quality parents for your future kids. Because these are all the times for you, all these three people in that video, to realize how to become better as a human, better as a caretaking human for another, better in also taking self-care in your relationships, because it is self-care. If you understand, when my mother or mother-in-law is venting at me, it is for my own good, unless they were abusive. If the mother-in-law is using abusive words, where that time you should stand up for yourself and vent about your mother-in-law. But if your mother-in-law was simply just complaining that she is tired, and you understand the intent behind why she is complaining, you will see sometimes there's no negative intent, and whatever she was doing can have a positive outcome from the venting also. I hope it makes sense. If you have any questions for further clarification on what I tried to communicate in this video, please drop a comment. I would be glad to talk about these issues. And if you have your own individual specific mother-in-law issues, please drop a comment on it. Because if you discuss this more, you will realize where you're going wrong, where you should change, where they are going wrong, where they can also potentially change, but only if the younger generation allows the right space for the older generation to change. And realize the older generation is there in your life until the time you pick up and become good parents. So please learn from them how to become good parents, because they do have some good skills too. So the mother-in-law coming and giving a daughter-in-law all the bandages and all that, seriously, none of my mother-in-laws, none of my own family does that to me when I have been injured. So this mother-in-law is actually one of the better quality mother-in-laws. So don't villainize someone who is not a villain in your life, and learn to distinguish between who is actually cruel versus who is just being a normal human and expressing their own pain. And if you have any comments, please drop a comment. Thank you.